On this week's episode of Local Matters, we go on the local scene to Plymouth bookshop Books and Sundry, talk with Quincy College President Rick DeCristofaro, author Erin Petti, and highlight what's good and good to know in our community. We have lots to talk about. Let's get started. A young person who loves books might just grow into an adult who writes books for young people. We went on the local scene with New England author Erin Petti. Take a look.
I did know at a young age that I wanted to be a writer. I think that I was in third grade and my third grade teacher, Mrs. Petti, took a story that I wrote in class and she loved it and gave it to the local newspaper, the Winthrop Transcript. And I kind of think that was a turning point moment for me because I realized that I love to do something that I might possibly be kind of good at. And kind of having a teacher invest in me, even just that little bit of time really early on made a big difference to me and kind of set my sights on writing, yeah. I went to Emerson College for my undergrad, and I majored in writing, literature, and publishing with a concentration in creative writing. And it was an incredible place to meet other really wild, creative people, and I got to study creative writing, which was kind of amazing. My first published book is The Peculiar Haunting of Thelma B., and it is a middle grade, so when I say middle grade, that's kind of like a Harry Potter aged book, that kind of category. It's a middle grade paranormal adventure starring Thelma B., who is a scientist by nature and looks at the world kind of through scientific eyes, using the scientific method. And then one day, something very unscientific happens. There's a strange old woman who comes into her dad's antique shop, and she has an antique box. And inside the box is a spirit, and the spirit proceeds to wreak havoc on her life and kidnap her father, and Thelma has to figure out how to get her dad back, how to team up with her friends, how to believe in things that she may not have believed in before, and she goes on a wild adventure in order to get her family back together. And she discovers something really special about herself too in the first book. The second book is the sequel to The Peculiar Haunting of Thelma B. So it's Thelma B. in Toil and Trouble. Thelma is living her life, trying to finish up 6th grade, like a normal human being. Then all of a sudden, paranormal activity in her town starts stirring again, and really weird things start to happen. And it gets to a point where one of her classmates actually goes missing in the woods. At the same time, there's an a cappella group. So this is a comedy too. There's an a cappella group in the school that's exhibiting some unique behavior. And Thelma has to figure out, she has to team up with her ghost hunting crew and figure out who is creating all this chaos. How do they get their classmates safely back? And eventually how they can save their whole town from a kind of a dark magic that is taking over really under the surface. I think the inspiration usually starts with a location for me. So I have a number of other projects that I'm working on, but the Thelma B. books were both inspired, and I'm working on the third one now, by a time when I lived in Maynard, Massachusetts, which is actually kind of out west, and it's a really awesome, quirky town with a lot of cool little small businesses, and it's got a river that runs through the middle of the town. And that, for me, I felt like there was an energy there that was really unique. And so when I created the Thelma B. books, it was with this kind of idea that maybe there's a town like this, but where anything could happen. Those rocks that look like maybe they could be a monster sleeping in the river, maybe they're actually a monster sleeping in the river, And I've got my own characters, and they grow and they develop their own ideas about the world, and they have their own adventures. But the inspiration comes from something about a place, something about the energy of a location in a place. And I know that's totally different for every single writer, but for me, that's where it comes from. There's something interesting about liminal spaces and in-between spaces. So I don't really write children's books, and I don't write teen books. I write middle grade. I think there's something amazing happening and terrifying and magical and unique that's happening between the ages of like 9 and 13 or 14 for kids. And it's this space where anything can happen because you have all the trappings of childhood and all the expectations of childhood. And whether you like it or not, and you might like it or you might hate it, elements of the real world in adulthood start coming in. And you as an individual are trying to weave together an existence that honors all of this childhood stuff, that's the only stuff you've ever known, and integrating in all of this adulthood stuff, which is much more silly and nonsensical for the most part. But it's an in-between space. So for me, that weaving leaves so many spaces in between the threads for magic to come in, and for unexpected things to come in, and for story to come in, and for growth to come in ways that just speak to me so much more directly than like writing for a really much younger audience or writing for an older audience. That's where the energy is for me, is right in that middle place. And I think a lot of middle grade horror, what if we give kids an insight into what it's like to look the hard thing in the face and beat the monster instead of being so scared that you pretend like it's not there, which is really, you know, in a ghost story, it's we give the monster an actual monster, you know what I mean? But what an amazing thing to instill in kids so that they can learn it or start to learn it at 10 and 11 instead of for the first time when they're 35 and 36, you know? So I think I love middle grade horror, I love spooky middle grade, and I love what it allows, the way that it allows kids to think about their own emotions and the way that they can take control and take power in scary situations. So for me, writing is a part of kind of like my metabolism emotionally, in a way. I think that, you know, even when it was like really, like I really wasn't sure that I was going to put out a second book or I was going to do anything, I still wrote thousands and thousands and thousands of words, you know. And whether those words ever see anything or anything, you know, that's kind of like not my business in some ways. My business is making sure that I'm taking care of myself, and a part of taking care of myself is creating stories and writing and using my imagination. So this is number 2 in the Thelma B series. I think that it's going to be a trilogy. I'm working on the 3rd Thelma B book right now. I'm really happy with the energy that we've got inside of it and where it's going. If I finish the whole thing and it's not done, then there might be a 4th book. But my goal is to have it be a trilogy. So that's kind of like the next big thing. I am kind of playing around with taking some stories and creating more like dramatic scripts and spec scripts, so that might be kind of an interesting direction to think about for the future. But yeah, I'm excited to just keep writing stories, because I don't know what the next one's gonna be yet, you know, because I'm kind of in one. So I guess I just hope I get to keep writing books and people keep reading the books, and I keep getting to help, because the thing that I didn't necessarily expect but has turned out to be an incredible experience is when I'm teaching these writing workshops and I'm getting, you know, that like direct experience with these kids that have their own stories. That's been fulfilling in a way that I had no idea that it would be that cool, because it's so direct. I'm talking about like, you know, impacting the life of kids through books, but it's like, then, you know, this is what teachers must feel like this every day. But like, you know, impacting the life of kids, because like I can see in front of me in these programs, these kids are like developing their own imaginations and feeling proud of themselves and like writing stories. So I want to keep doing that too. I guess like I just hope I get to keep doing what I'm doing now.
To keep updated on Thelma B and more, visit erinpettibooks.com. When you think of a female opera singer, do you instantly picture a Viking warrior woman wearing a horned metal helmet? I do. The character of Brunhilde from Wagner's The Ring of Nibelung is easily the most recognizable character in opera, but there's actually very little evidence that Vikings wore horns on their helmets. So Where did this popular myth come from? Opera. Costume designer Karl Emil Doppler included horned helmets in his costume designs for the 1876 performance of Wagner's classic Norse saga, and the image has stuck. On September 14th, visit the Phala Room at the Plymouth Public Library for Music Appreciation, Wagner, Viking helmets, and other tales of opera costumes. This program will be presented by Miss Tilly Margot Kingsley and will be a fun, tongue-in-cheek evening of education, entertainment, and more. Played by Sandy Hammond, Miss Tilly will share tales of opera plots, costume history, excerpts of famous arias, and more in this one-hour lecture beginning at 7 p.m. Visit the Plymouth Public Library website to register. The enslavement of fellow human beings is inextricably linked with the founding of the United States, woven into the fabric of our new nation and shaping the way of life in both the North and the South. Like all of New England, the town of Duxbury has a complicated history and relationship with the institution of slavery. Enslaved people lived and worked in this community during colonial days, and after slavery ended in Massachusetts in 1783, Duxbury's economic ties to Southern slavery continued. On September 29th from 6:30 to 7:30, join Duxbury Rural and Historical Society archivist and historian Carolyn Ravenscroft at the Duxbury Free Library. Learn and listen together as she presents History Talk, Bondage and Complicity, Duxbury's History with Slavery. Ravenscroft will explore the myriad ways that Duxbury's 19th century wealth was tied to enslaved labor and the lived experience of those enslaved. Visit duxburyhistory.org to register. Overlooking Plymouth Harbor, Books and Sundry is an independent bookshop that welcomes browsing, relaxing, and reading in an environment that is a celebration of literature and community. We visited with owner Glenda Richards to learn more.
There's definitely a type of customer that wants to support independent businesses, local businesses. So there are people that really believe in the power of local businesses to improve a community, draw in, people from outside the community, and that strengthen the local economy. And I have found that the two biggest sales days were the Saturday after Thanksgiving, which is Shop Small. And I wasn't sure, how seriously people would take that, but they really do. And then Independent Bookstore Day in April. That was another good draw, and it reaffirmed my faith that people, want something like this. There's a place for Amazon, but then, you don't get like this really carefully curated selection of books and gift items. Just the more I started researching it and more I started discovering the indie bookstores were making a comeback and seeing all the changes that have happened in Plymouth in the last 20 years, I really felt like Plymouth would be able to support an independent bookstore. And then when this particular location opened up, I just decided to jump in and go for it. So the scariest part is feeling like it's all me, having to make the income and just run everything from, keeping the lights on to picking out the books to trying to figure out what will draw people in. You have ideas in your head of how you would want to run a business, but then, what actually works and what actually translates to people to feel the same way I feel about books and community. So that's like the scariest part because I've never done anything like that before. And then the funnest part is seeing everyone come in and discover books and be amazed that there's a physical bookstore right here in downtown. People walking, a bookstore, and bringing their kids, and then the repeat customers and getting to know them. And then also just, I love picking out the books. That's like a dream job, is just to be able to read book reviews and read books and then recommend books that I think would be really cool to read to other people. That's why you open a bookstore. People, like customers, they really look for local authors. I think that's the draw of having an independent bookstore, is finding something that may not be out there, on the radar of everyone else. And then you give a local author a chance to kind of get their own little spotlight and talk about this work that they've spent so much time working on and creating. So that I have found has really generated a lot of community interest. In addition to books, we do like to have local authors in for events. And for example, we have Erin Petti coming in September for the launch of her second book in the Thelma B series, and we're really excited about that. So what am I reading now? I am reading a few different things. So one thing that I just finished that I really enjoyed was The Thursday Murder Club. So it's kind of a quirky mystery, first in a mystery series set in the United Kingdom at a retirement community. So the crime solvers are senior citizens, so they come with their own backgrounds and their own idiosyncrasies. So that was really, character-driven books are some that I really love. And the second book came out in paperback recently, and then the third installment is going to come out soon. So I'm looking forward to following these characters' development and seeing what other trouble they can get into solving murders. Future for the bookstore is looking pretty good. I just finished first year in business. I'm looking at growing and doing more events, bringing in more book clubs. I only have one book club running right now, so I'd like to add another book club and children's story time. The word is still getting out there slowly but surely. I have people come in every day who live in Plymouth who didn't know that we were here. Slow and steady, that's kind of my dream of growing the business. So I think bookstores bring the community together by offering something for everyone. So there is a book for everything. If your child is having trouble in school, or you just want to escape and read something fun, or you want to learn something new. So that's the beauty of bookstores. And you can come in and you can just kind of browse around on your own and talk to an actual person about what's selling or what they like or what they've heard other people like. So that's the best thing about small independent bookstores, that personal kind of connection that you get.
Visit booksandsundryshop.com and make sure to sign up for their newsletter to keep updated on what this shop has in store. Affairs of the State is a new roundtable series offered by the Pembroke Council on Aging, when you can join a conversation with your state senator Susan Moran and state representatives Kathy Lenatra and Josh Cutler. This 4-part series begins on Monday, September 12th at 5:30 and ends on October 3rd. Get to know the people who represent you and their positions on the issues. These sessions are free, but you need to register. Call 781-294-8220 to sign up. The process of grieving the loss of a loved one is never complete. It can feel like a circle that returns you to the place you once were. On Wednesday, September 21st, from 2:30 to 4 p.m., local author and bereavement facilitator Gary Sturgis will be at the Plymouth Public Library to share his book and personal story, Surviving: Finding Your Way from Grief to Healing. Gary will share intimate details of the stages of his grief journey and how he learned to handle his emotions, honor his loved one by sharing stories and experiences, and how he progressed over time from feeling deep anguish to living a life that has joy and peace again. Using his own path to healing, together with lessons learned as a healthcare professional and volunteer grief counselor, Gary offers reassuring guidance and advice that can be helpful in finding your way into healing. Visit the event page of the Plymouth Public Library to learn more. Here's Keith Hughes with an all-new Snapshot.
Welcome to Snapshot, where we take a local look at the government stories that you may have missed. The Massachusetts Comprehensive Assessment System, otherwise known as MCAS, was created in 1993 as a statewide standards-based assessment program. The goal of MCAS is to improve accountability in school performance. MCAS testing began in 1998, becoming part of graduation requirements in 2003. State Board of Education voted to follow Commissioner Riley's recommendation to update MCAS regulations to raise the minimum scores on the MCAS test for this year's incoming freshmen and at least the 4 classes that follow in order to graduate high school. The current score requirements are 472 for English, 486 for math, and 220 for science and technology. With the updates, students will be required to earn a scaled score of 486 on the English and math exams and a score of 470 for the science and technology tests. Those opposed to the new thresholds have voiced their concerns about how these changes could affect low-income communities, as well as English language learners and students with disabilities, seeing the higher scores as potential barriers to graduation for these groups and others. You can watch the recording of the August 15th meeting where this was discussed through the Department of Education's website, doe.mass.edu. The town of Duxbury recently received $1.8 million from the Plymouth County ARPA program to make water infrastructure improvements at the Partridge Road well, which had been taken offline due to PFAS issues. With this money, the town will be able to work on a new carbon filtration system, which will allow the well to go back online. The town had previously made plans to borrow money to pay for this project, so these funds will cover that and eliminate the need for borrowing costs and interest payments. The town of Kingston and its electricity consultant Colonial Power Group have agreed to a 15-month contract as the current municipal aggregation agreement expires September 1st. Under the new agreement, rates will be raised to 0.17871 cents per kilowatt hour, an increase from the previous rate of 0.10525 cents per kilowatt hour. Colonial Power Group has mailed out information cards to those currently enrolled in the program. If you have additional questions, you can call them at 781-588-0500 and choose option 4. You can also visit the town's website, kingstonma.gov, to find out more about the program and how to enroll. The State Special Commission to redesign the state seal has asked for an extension to March 2023 to allow time to gather design proposals, ask for feedback, and file a formal recommendation to the General Court of a new state seal. Established in 2021, the Commission set their original due date for October of that year, but have since received 2 extensions. Unless the legislature extends the deadline as requested, the Commission has until December 31st of this year to complete their mission. You can view previous meetings of the Commission at malegislature.gov. On August 10, 2022, Governor Charlie Baker signed the Massachusetts Sports Wagering Act into law, which will legalize sports betting in the state. The Massachusetts Gaming Commission is charged with overseeing this and is currently in the process of developing a timeline for its implementation. At upcoming meetings, the Commission will be working through regulations and the steps needed to implement this new industry in the state. You can find out more at massgaming.com. Thanks for watching this edition of Snapshot. I'm Keith Hughes, and we'll see you next time.
Are you sold on the benefits of composting your kitchen scraps and yard waste, but are unsure of how to get a good pile going that doesn't result in a gross, smelly mess? On September 27th from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m., composting expert Casey Doyle will be at the Adams Center to show you how. Composting 101 will be a little bit of science and a lot of understanding of what compost is, how to do it, and what to do with it. This presentation will also discuss ways to speed up the process, fix problems in the process so your pile doesn't get too wet, too dry, or too smelly. Casey will talk about why everyone should compost and how everyone can. Register via the Kingston Public Library website. Live well, age well. Fast Forward, a look into the future is a 5-part educational series for adults of all ages. At this September 13th screening event, you'll follow 4 millennials and their parents as they travel through time wearing an MIT-produced aging empathy suit and work with professional makeup artists to navigate the realizations, conversations, and mindset required to age successfully. Presented at the Duxbury Free Library in partnership with the Duxbury Senior Center, this September 13th screening event will take place from 6:30 to 8 p.m. in the Merry Room. A complimentary bag dinner will also be provided for all attendees. Please call the Duxbury Senior Center at 781-934-5774 if you have any dietary restrictions. Registration is required for each part of the series individually. Visit the Duxbury Free Library website to register. Quincy College President Rick DeCristofaro visited our studio to talk with Julie Thompson about what's new and next for this public community college.
I'm so pleased to welcome Rick DeCristofaro, who is the president of Quincy College. Welcome.
Oh, thank you, and it's great to be here.
It's wonderful to have you here on set instead of zooming in, which is wonderful.
Yeah. What a beautiful town.
It is.
Beautiful town. It is big.
Plymouth is huge.
Yeah.
People don't realize how big Plymouth is.
Yeah, it's beautiful
so
though.
You're the president of all of Quincy College,
Correct.
which is has campuses in Quincy and in Plymouth, and
Yep.
you've been in Plymouth for 20?
About 20 years, yeah.
Okay. You had a presence down here for a long time, and I hear you're going to open a new campus.
Yeah, we're expanding some programs in Plymouth, which is great, and Quincy, but we're also looking at a Boston site that we're sharing with an organization called Jewish Vocational Services.
Great.
So they have a lot of contracts with hospitals, so we'll provide the healthcare activities, programs for their students, and then they go to the workplace,
Okay.
places that they have contracts in. Yeah, so it's a nice little arrangement, yeah.
Excellent. Now, are you a 2-year college or a 4-year college?
We're both right now.
Okay.
We have a lot of 2-year programs, but as of late, we started our business management 4-year program, baccalaureate, as well. In January, we start our computer science program, 4-year program as well. So we'll be kind of a combination of many 2-year programs, certificates, degrees, as well as going forward and having a 4-year program in 2 areas.
Okay. So let's talk about your bachelor's degree in computer science. That's a 4-year offering, and obviously that's a field that you're never going to have a problem getting a job in.
No.
Right?
No. And I think, and I think what we've done is we've keyed in on a lot of areas that blend beautifully with the world of work for our students. And otherwise, we could do a lot. A liberal arts plays a major role, but when they're finished with that liberal arts, we make sure that they have something that they can get into the world of work very quickly and very meaningfully. So you're right, with computer management, computer science, as well as business management, both, our students will do a lot of internships as well, and we hope blend right into a
the
job
workforce.
with great security for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, you also have a radiology program. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, we're actually building a radiology lab, and many have not been to Quincy, but there's a small building, that's Seville building, that's our science building, and it has an underground, well, it's not under, it's the basement parking garage, basically, wide open. Well, we had people look at it, and they decided that would be, part of that would be a great place for a radiology lab because of everything that goes into radiology. And so we're building a lab. That lab should be done probably in about a month and a half. And so we'll be accepting students. Those students that can come in now will do prerequisites in the fall and be ready to begin their program in January. So we're looking forward to that as well.
So both the computer science and the radiology, you take those courses in the Quincy location?
You can take those prerequisites in the Plymouth area as well. Yeah, not Boston, but the Plymouth area to get ready to go to Quincy for your clinical and lab stuff.
Got it. So okay. Now, is any of this available online, or is it all in classroom?
It depends on, like the radiology, you can do some online courses, but
you need hands-on.
Mostly is hands-on. It's like our nursing program, same thing, MLT. So so there's a nice combination, but I think in Plymouth in particular, you can do a ton of online programs for the nursing. I mean, the nursing is there in Plymouth. Our physical therapy assistant program is terrific, and that's in Plymouth. We have a pharmacy tech program in Plymouth, EMT program. So we have a lot of very unique programs in Plymouth, along with any other course that's offered in Quincy.
Okay, great.
Right down here,
Okay, super. Opportunities for English language learners. Talk about that, because that is a really big subject everywhere.
Yeah, we are trying so very hard to do two things. Number one, to get into the Plymouth Public Schools and work with faculty there, or teachers there, to offer professional development for dealing with, or teaching, I should say dealing with, teaching English as language students that come to them. So we're trying to break that market. Plus we're getting into, and I believe, Portuguese, that we are trying very, very hard to get into the community and deal and work with the leaders in the community to make sure that we can really outreach and really have some great programs. And we'll have them all in Plymouth. We can outreach to a building in Plymouth where people are more comfortable coming and learning. So we're trying very, very hard to increase our EL program in Plymouth.
Okay. Yeah, and there's a large Portuguese population in Plymouth. And I think it's pretty much an underserved population at this point. So
absolutely.
that's wonderful that you're heading that way.
And we're trying to get some grants from the Department of Education.
Yeah.
We have one grant that we have at the college, but what we're trying to do is expand that grant for year 2, 3, 4 in Plymouth as well. And that would be a free EL program. And then bring them into credit programs if they wish, if they're ready, when they're confident enough to do that.
Excellent.
Yeah, so create a pathway.
They need that foundation first.
Yes.
And then they go forward.
Yeah.
Excellent. Now, I didn't realize that Quincy College had a very robust athletic department.
Yeah. Yeah.
So talk about what the different athletics that are offered, and it's mostly it's in your Quincy campus.
That's correct.
Okay.
It's for everyone, but it's
Right.
Yeah, and I think there are two things for that. The first thing, the athletic piece, way back when, showing my gray hair here, there was a basketball program, baseball program, but I think as the college increased, for whatever reason, athletics wasn't the focus of the students. But knowing that we don't have a campus in a sense like beautiful Plymouth in Quincy, you know, what we need to do is add as much student life as we possibly can.
Yeah.
So athletics really plays a great role, and the basketball has done very, very well. You know, there's probably 20 to 25 student athletes. Our baseball, 30 student athletes. You
Hockey,
know,
you just
did
added
very
hockey.
well. And we've added hockey.
Yeah.
Hockey will start December, really mid-November when they can start to practice. And so, and it's interesting because we also added housing.
I was just going to ask you that.
Yeah, with a partnership with Eastern Nazarene College.
Oh,
and,
excellent.
yeah, so you know, they get the housing, they get the board, the room and board, and they can do things there. But there's quite a separate from the educational piece.
Sure.
That's us. We get the tuition or whatever. So that's been. I think that will also help the athletic program.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, as well, and
Yep.
you know, and every other program too. You know, it's different because you're away. You know, you don't really get to know the students. Where Eastern Nazarene is they're wonderful, wonderful people and are willing to.
So you partnered
have
with them
these
for
students
housing.
come in.
That's great. That's great.
So it expands our enrollment, our revenue, but also opportunities for a ton of students that may not be in the Quincy, Plymouth area, or if you live in Plymouth. I mean, it seems like a distance at times.
Well, sometimes it is, depending on the traffic.
Yeah, so, you know, maybe there are students that, you know, would come to Plymouth that would say, you know what, maybe I'll go to Quincy, have housing, and participate at Quincy College in the city.
That's great. And how much student enrollment do you have that's traditional college age versus older?
Yeah, older, not older, but a little older, yeah.
Not the 18 to 22 that you usually expect to come right out of high school.
That's less of our
population
enrollment and demographic. The demographic pretty much is that 24 to early 30s that, you know, either coming back after being at work for a bit and looking at a different frame of reference for themselves and looking at the world of work. So that's the demographic, which is a good thing. But we also have a lot of programs, and that's why we need to expand more into the Plymouth Public Schools.
Right.
Because we can do a lot, not only with the teachers and professional development, but also with some unique programs. There's one unique program we have with one of the special education programs there at Plymouth. The professor there, the instructor there
Mm-hmm.
reached out to us, so we're talking to him about college credits for some of his students.
That's really a popular thing that's going on now with high schools, especially kids that are in the AP classes.
Yep.
They really love being able to take college courses and getting some credit and get kind of a leg up on their college.
And you can do two things. You have the AP, but as you know, the AP you pay, and then you pass the test.
Right.
If you don't pass the test, oops. So we also have what we call dual enrollment.
Yeah.
And dual enrollment, we don't have it in Plymouth, and I'm working hard with the superintendent there and assistant superintendent to get it into Plymouth. But dual enrollment, we have Quincy, North, Milton, Duxbury, Marshfield, Hanover, Whitman, Hanson. You know, we have probably about 13 to 15 partners where our professors go to the school and they agree on the syllabus that needs to be taught. And then those teachers at these towns, they're the ones that teach the course, and then these students get college credit, and they're transferred all over the country.
Yeah, that's great. That is great.
It really is. And, you know, I always say I wish they would come to Quincy College when they're done, but they don't. You know, maybe someday more will, but it's more in our mission
Sure.
You know, and our
Yes.
brand to say, yeah, we're here to be supportive to communities. You
that's
know, and if
great.
we benefit, great. If we don't, that's okay, because
Yeah.
these students, you know, they go to some really great schools
Yeah.
all over the
Yeah.
country, and
Yeah.
the parents are thrilled because the cost
Yeah.
is so low
Yeah.
for each 3 credit course that they may want to take.
And I think there's a lot to be said for having a college that's convenient.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the problems with going to college are the whole transitioning to bringing all your stuff, and you're a state away or miles and miles away, and just it's a convenience factor that people are getting more and more used to. They
Yeah.
like to be convenienced.
Yeah, they really do, and I think the students, there's an incredible amount of students that graduate from the high schools in the South Shore, say,
Yeah.
that go to go far south,
Oh, sure,
you know, or
sure.
go west.
Yep.
But then they come back in December.
Yeah, right.
Because, well, maybe it's not exactly what
Yeah.
they thought, you know.
Yeah.
So we get some of those
Yep.
students, or
Yep.
a Bridgewater may get those students, a Massasoit may get those students.
Exactly,
But
exactly.
that's something that I think goes back to your convenience statement.
Yeah.
That parents are looking for something
Yeah.
that, you know, is far more affordable.
I was just going to say that. That's
Yeah.
the second huge factor, is the affordability.
Yeah.
Which is obviously plays into, if you go far away and you have to do the room and board, it adds just a whole different dimension to your college expense.
Yeah.
Granted, it gives a great experience, but it's not
Sure.
for everybody.
Right, and you're right, but the experience piece is incredibly
course it is, of
valuable.
course it
You
is,
know,
yeah.
so that's why we try to add as much student life with our clubs, with
That's
all
great.
that. But we can't compete with a lot of other schools.
But you have
so
a whole population that doesn't need you to.
that's a very good point.
So that's,
and
you know,
those,
so
those
there
are
you go.
students we love.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, thank you so much.
That's my pleasure.
Go Quincy College.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's always great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick and Julie. Visit quincycollege.edu to learn more. And visit us on YouTube and social media at The Local Scene by PACTV if you'd like to see more content from the local scene about what's good and good to know in our community. That wraps this episode of Local Matters. I'm Elizabeth Shanahan Jewett. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. We are grateful for your attention. If you like what you saw, please like and subscribe to The Local Scene here and share everywhere. Thank you, friends.